Act 1, Scene 1. Thunder and lightning. Enter three witches. When should the three of us meet again? Will it be in thunder, lightning, or rain? We'll meet when the noise of battle is over, when one side has won and the other side has lost. That will happen before sunset. Where should we meet? Let's do it on the open field. We'll meet Macbeth there. The witches hear the calls of their spirit friends or familiars, which look like animals. One is a cat and one is a toad. The first witch calling to her cat, "I'm coming, Graymalkin." Second witch, "My toad, Paddock, calls me." The third witch to her spirit, "I'll be right there." All of them in unison, "Fair is foul and foul is fair. Let's fly away through the fog and filthy air." And they exit. Act 1, Scene 2. Sounds of a trumpet and soldiers fighting off stage. King Duncan enters with his sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, Lennox and a number of attendants. They meet a wounded and bloody captain. "Who is this bloody man? Judging from his appearance, I bet he can tell us the latest news about the revolt." Malcolm, "This is the brave sergeant who fought to keep me from being captured. Hail, brave friend! Tell the king what has happened in the battle when you left it." Captain, "For a while you couldn't tell who would win. The armies were like two exhausted swimmers clinging to each other and struggling in the water, unable to move. The villainous rebel Macdonald was supported by foot soldiers and horsemen from Ireland and the Hebrides, and Lady Luck was with him, smiling cruelly at his enemies as if she were his whore. But Luck and Macdonald together were not strong enough. Brave Macbeth, laughing at Luck, chopped his way through to Macdonald, who didn't even have time to say goodbye or shake hands before Macbeth split him open from his navel, that's his belly button, to his jawbone, and then stuck his head on our castle walls." Duncan, "My brave relative, what a worthy man." Act 1, Scene 2, page 2. But in the same way that violent storms always come just as spring appears, our success against Macdonald created new problems for us. Listen to this, King. As soon as we sent those Irish soldiers running for cover, the Norwegian king saw his chance to attack us with fresh troops and shiny weapons. Duncan, "Didn't this frighten our captains, Macbeth and Banquo?" Captain, "The new challenge scared them about as much as sparrows frighten eagles or rabbits frighten a lion. To tell you the truth, they fought the new enemy with twice as much force as before. They were like cannons loaded with double ammunition. Maybe they wanted to take a bath in their enemy's blood, or to make the battlefield as infamous as Golgotha, where Christ was crucified. I don't know, but I feel weak. My wounds must be tended to." "Your words, like your wounds, bring you honor. Take him to the surgeons." The captain exits, helped by his attendants. Ross and Angus enter. "Who is this?" "The worthy Thane of Ross." "His eyes seem frantic. He looks like someone with a strange tale to tell." "God save the king." "Where have you come from, worthy Thane?" "Great king, I've come from Fife, where the Norwegian flag flies, mocking our country and frightening our people, leading an enormous army and assisted by that disloyal traitor, the Thane of Cawdor, the king of Norway, began a bloody battle. But outfitted in his battle-weathered armor, Macbeth met the Norwegian attacks shot for shot, as if he were the goddess of war's husband. Finally, he broke the enemy's spirit, and we were victorious." "Great happiness." "So now the Sweno, the Norwegian king, wants a treaty. We told him we wouldn't even let him bury his men until he retreated to St. Colmay's Inch, and paid us $10,000. "To the Thane of Cawdor, we will never again betray me. Go announce that he will be executed, and tell Macbeth that the Cawdor's titles will be given to him." "I'll get it done right away." The Thane of Cawdor has lost what the noble Macbeth has won. They all exit. So King Duncan has just ordered that Ross go and kill the Thane of Cawdor, which was the Norwegian king, because he betrayed Duncan, who is the king. And now they're going to give that title to Macbeth because Macbeth was such a good war hero. Act 1, Scene 3. There's thunder, and the three witches are back. "Where have you been, sister?" "Killing pigs." "And you, sister?" "A sailor's wife had her chestnuts in her lap and munched away at them. 'Give me one,' I said. 'Get away from me, witch,' the fat woman cried. Her husband sailed off to Aleppo as a master of a ship called the Tiger. I'll sail there in a kitchen strainer. I'll turn myself into a tailless rat and do things to him. I'll give you some wind to sail there. How nice of you. And I'll give you some more. I already have control of all the other winds, along with the ports from which they blow and every direction on the sailor's compass in which they can go. I'll drain the life out of him. He won't catch a wink of sleep, either at night or during the day. He'll live now as a cursed man. For 81 weeks he'll waste away in agony. Although I can't make his ship disappear, I can make his journey miserable. Look what I have here. Show me, show me. Here I have the thumb of a pilot who was drowned while we're trying to return off stage. A drum sounds off stage. A drum, Macbeth has come. Dancing together in a circle. We, the weird sisters, hand in hand, swift travelers over the sea and land, dance around and around like so, 3 times to yours and 3 times to mine, and 3 times again to add up to 9. Enough! Our charm is ready! Macbeth and the noble Banquo enter. Macbeth, speaking to Banquo, says, I've never seen a day that was so good and so bad at the same time. So this is a really famous line. He says, so foul and fair a day I have not seen. This is like a contradiction. Like, how can a day be good and bad at the same time? This is one of the more famous lines from Macbeth that we'll analyze. Banquo, who is his best friend and fighting partner, responds to him. How far is it supposed to be to the forest? He sees the witches. What are these creatures? They're so withered looking and crazily dressed. They do not look like they belong on this planet, but I see them standing here on Earth. To the witches, he says, Are you alive? Can you answer questions? You seem to understand me because each of you has put a gruesome finger to her skinny lips. You look like women, but your beards keep me from believing that you actually are women. Macbeth says, Speak, if you can. What kind of creatures are you? And the witches respond, All hail Macbeth. Hail to you, Thane of Glamis. All hail Macbeth. Hail to you, Thane of Cawdor. All hail Macbeth, the future king. Banquo says, My dear Macbeth, why do you look so startled and afraid of these nice things they're saying? And now to the witches. Tell me honestly, are you illusions or are you really what you seem to be? You've greeted my noble friend with honors and talk of a future so glorious that you've made him speechless. But you don't say anything to me. If you can see the future and say how things will turn out, tell me. I don't want your favors, and I'm not afraid of your hatred. Hail, hail, hail. These are the witches talking now. You are lesser than Macbeth, but also greater. You are not as happy as Macbeth, but also much happier. Banquo, your descendants will be kings, even though you shall not be one. So all hail Macbeth and Banquo. Banquo and Macbeth, all hail. Macbeth says, Wait, you only told me part of what I want to know. Stay and tell me more. I already know I am the Thane of Glamis because I inherited the position when my father, Sinel, died. But how can you call me the Thane of Cawdor? The Thane of Cawdor is alive and he's rich and powerful man. And for me to be the king is completely impossible, as it's impossible for me to be the Thane of Cawdor. Tell me where you learned these strange things and why you stopped this desolate place with this prophetic greeting. Speak, I command you. But the witches vanish. So right now, Macbeth doesn't know that King Duncan has ordered Ross to go and name him the Thane of Cawdor. So he's really confused that the witches have just given him this prophecy. He doesn't understand that it's coming towards him. Banquo says, The earth has bubbles just like the water, and these creatures must have come from a bubble in the earth. Where did they disappear to? Well, into thin air, my friend. Their bodies melted like breath into the wind. I wish they had stayed. What were these things we're talking about really here, or are we just both on drugs? Your children will be kings, Banquo. Macbeth, you will be king. And Thane of Cawdor, too. Isn't that what they said? Well, that's exactly what they said. Who's this? Ross and Angus enter. Ross says, The king was happy to hear of your success, Macbeth. Whenever he hears the story of your exploits in the fight against the rebels, he becomes so amazed that it makes him speechless. He was also shocked to learn on the same day that you fought the rebels, you also fought against the army of Norway, and you weren't even the least bit afraid, even as you killed everyone around you. Messenger after messenger delivered news of your bravery to the king with praise for how you defended his country. Angus, the king sent us to give his thanks and to bring you to him. Your real reward won't come from us. And to give you a taste of what's in store for you, he told me to call you the Thane of Cawdor. So hail, Thane of Cawdor, this title belongs to you now. Banquo is shocked. Can the devil tell the truth? Macbeth says, the Thane of Cawdor is still alive. Why are you putting his clothes on me? Angus says, the man who was the Thane of Cawdor is still alive, but he's sentenced to death and he deserves to die. I don't know whether he fought on Norway's side or if he secretly aided the rebels or if he fought with both of our enemies, but his treason, which has been proven and to which he's confessed, means he is finished. Macbeth, in an aside to himself, says, it's just like they said. Now I'm the Thane of Glamis and the Thane of Cawdor, and the best part of what they predicted is still to come. To Ross and Angus, he says, thank you for the news. Now speaking so only Banquo can hear, aren't you beginning to hope that your children will be kings? After all, the witches who said I was Thane of Cawdor promised them nothing less. Banquo says, if you trust what they say, you might be on your way to becoming king as well as Thane of Cawdor. But this whole thing is strange. The agents of evil often tell us part of the truth in order to lead us to our destruction. They earn our trust by telling us the truth about little things, but then they betray us when it will damage us the most. To Ross and Angus, gentlemen, I'd like to have a word with you, please. Ross, Angus, and Banquo move to one side. Macbeth, to himself, in an aside, says, so far the witches have told me 2 things that come true. It seems like this will culminate in me becoming king. Now he's speaking to Ross and Angus. Thank you, gentlemen. Now he's talking to himself again. This supernatural temptation doesn't seem like it can be a bad thing, but it can't be good either. If it's a bad thing, why was I promised a promotion that turned out to be true? Now I'm the Thane of Cawdor, just like they said I would be. But if it's a good thing, why do I find myself thinking about murdering King Duncan? A thought so horrifying that it makes my hair stand on end and my heart pound in my chest. The dangers that actually threaten me here and now frighten me less than the horrible things I'm imagining. Even though it's just a fantasy so far, the mere thought of committing murder shakes me up so much that I hardly know who I am anymore. My ability to act is stifled by my thoughts and speculations, and the only things that matter to me are the ones that don't really exist. Look at Macbeth, he's in a daze. If fate wants me to be king, perhaps fate will just make it happen and I won't have to do anything. Macbeth is not used to his new titles. They're like new clothes. They don't fit until you break them in over time. One way or another, what's going to happen is going to happen. Good, Macbeth, we're ready when you are. I beg your pardon, I was distracted, kind gentlemen. I won't forget the troubles you've taken for me wherever they think of this day. Let's go to the king. Speaking now, so only Banquo can hear. Think about what happened today, and we've both had time to consider things. Let's talk. Absolutely. Until then, we've said enough. To Ross and Angus, let's go, my friends. They all exit. A trumpet fanfare sounds. King Duncan, Lennox, Malcolm, Donalbain, and all their attendants enter. King Duncan, has the former Thane of Cawdor been executed yet? Haven't the people in charge of that come back? Malcolm, my king, they haven't come back yet, but I spoke with someone who saw Cawdor die, and he said that Cawdor openly confessed to treasons, begged your highness's forgiveness, and repented deeply. He never did anything in his whole life that looked as good as the way he died. He died like someone who had practiced how to toss away his most cherished possessions as if they were a worthless piece of garbage. There's no way to read a man's mind by looking at his face. I trusted him completely. Macbeth, Banquo, Ross, and Angus enter. To Macbeth, Duncan says, my worthiest kinsman, just this moment I was feeling guilty for not having thanked you enough. You have done so much for me, fast it has been impossible to reward you properly. If you deserve less, then perhaps my payment would have matched your deeds. All I can say is, I owe you more than I can ever repay. Macbeth responds to the king by saying, the opportunity to serve you is its own reward. Your only duty, your highness, is to accept what we owe you. Our duty to you and your state is like the duty of children to their father or servants to their master. By doing everything we can to protect you, we're only doing what we should. King Duncan says, "You are welcome here. By making you Thane of Cawdor, I have planted the seeds of a great career for you, and I will make sure they grow. Noble Banquo, you deserve no less than Macbeth, and everyone should know it. Let me bring you close to me and give you the benefit of my love and goodwill." Banquo says, "If I accomplish anything great, it will be a credit to you, Duncan." Duncan says, "My joy is so overwhelming, it brings tears to my eyes. My sons, relatives, lords, and all those closest to me, I want you to witness that I will bestow my kingdom on my eldest son, Malcolm. Today, I name Malcolm the Prince of Cumberland. But Malcolm isn't going to be alone in receiving honors. Titles and nobility will shine like stars on all who reserve them." To Macbeth, "And now, let's go to your castle at Inverness, where I will become even more obliged to you because of your hospitality. I'm not happy unless I can be working for you. I will go ahead and bring my wife the good news that you are coming. With that, I'll be off." My worthy Cawdor. Macbeth to himself. "Malcolm is now the Prince of Cumberland. To become king myself, I'm either going to have to step over him or give up because he's in my way. Stars, hide your light so no one can see the terrible desires within me. I won't let my eye look at what my hand is doing, but in the end, I'm going to do the thing that I'd be horrified to see." Macbeth exits. Duncan talks to Banquo. In the middle of the conversation we haven't heard. "You're right, Banquo. Macbeth is every bit as valiant as you say, and I'm satisfied with these praises of him. Let's follow after him now that he has gone ahead to prepare our welcome. He is a man without equal." Trumpet fanfare, and they exit. Now Lady Macbeth enters, reading a letter in Act 1, Scene 5. "The witches met me on the day of my victory in battle, and I have since learned that they have supernatural knowledge. When I tried desperately to question them further, they vanished into thin air. When I stood spellbound, messengers from the king arrived and greeted me as Thane of Cawdor, which is precisely how the weird sisters had saluted me before calling me the future king. I thought I should tell you this news, my dearest partner in greatness, so that you could rejoice along with me about the greatness that is promised to us. Keep it secret, and farewell." She looks up from the letter. "You are Thane of Glamis and Cawdor, and you're going to be king just like you were promised. But I worry about whether or not you have what it takes to seize the crown. You are too full of the milk of human kindness to strike aggressively at your first opportunity. You want to be powerful, and you don't lack ambition, but you don't have the mean streak that these things call for. The things that you want to do like a good man. You don't want to cheat. Yet you want what doesn't belong to you. There's something you want, but you're afraid to do what you need to do to get it. You want it done for you. Hurry home so I can persuade you and talk to you out of whatever's keeping you from going after the crown. After all, fate and witchcraft both seem to want you to be king." A servant enters. "What news do you bring, servant?" "The king is coming here tonight." "You must crazy to say that. Is Macbeth with the king? And wouldn't Macbeth have told me in advance so I could prepare if the king were really coming?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it's the truth. Macbeth is coming. He sent a messenger ahead of him who arrived here so out of breath he could barely speak his message." "Take good care of him. He brings great news." The servant exits. So the messenger is short of breath like a hoarse raven as he announces Duncan's entrance into the fortress where he will die. "Come, you spirits that assist murderous thoughts, make me less like a woman and more like a man, and fill me head to toe with deadly cruelty." So this is a really famous part of the story because in the original text, she says, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty." So this is the part where she prays to be more masculine. "Thicken my blood and clog up my veins so I won't feel remorse, so that no human compassion can stop my evil plan or prevent me from accomplishing it. Come to my female breast and turn my mother's milk into poisonous acid, you murdering demons. Wherever you hide, invisible and waiting to do evil, come, thick night, and cover the world in the darkest smoke of hell, so that my sharp knife can't see the wound it cuts open, and so heaven can't peep through the darkness and cry, 'No, stop!'" Macbeth enters. "Great Thane of Glamis, worthy Thane of Cawdor, you'll soon be greater than both those titles once you become king. Your letter has transported me from the present moment, when who knows what will happen, and has made me feel like the future is already here." "My dearest love, Duncan is coming tonight." "And when is he leaving?" "He plans to leave tomorrow." "That day will never come." Your face betrays strange feelings, my lord, and people will be able to read it like a book. In order to deceive them, you must appear the way they expect you to look. Greet the king with welcoming expression in your eyes, your hands, and your words. You shouldn't look like an innocent flower. You should look like an innocent flower, but be like the snake that hides underneath the flower. The king is coming, but he's got to be taken care of. Let me handle tonight's preparations, because tonight will change every night and every day for the rest of our lives. We'll talk about this later. You should project a peaceful mood, because if you look troubled, you'll arouse suspicion. Leave the rest to me. They exit. The stage is lit by torches. Musicians play. Duncan enters together with Malcolm, Donalbain, Banquo, Lennox, Macduff, Ross, Angus, and all their attendants. King Duncan says, "This castle is a pleasant place. The air is sweet, and it appeals to my refined senses." Banquo says, "The fact that this summer bird, the house martin, builds its nests here proves how inviting the breezes are. There isn't a single protrusion in the castle walls where these birds haven't built their hanging nests to sleep and breed. I've noticed that they always like to settle and mate where the air is the nicest." Lady Macbeth enters. "Look, here comes our honored hostess. Sometimes the love my subjects bring me is inconvenient, but I still accept it as love. In doing so, I'm teaching you to thank me for the inconvenience I'm causing you by being here, because it comes from my love to you. Everything we're doing for you, even if we're doubled and doubled again, is nothing compared to the honors you have brought to our family. We've gladly welcomed you as our guests, with gratitude for both the honors you've given us before and the new honors you've just given us." "Where is Macbeth, the Thane of Cawdor?" "We followed closely after him. I hoped to arrive here before him, but he rides swiftly, and his great love, which is as sharp as a spur, helped him beat us here. Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight." "We are your servants, your highness. As always, our house and everything in it is at your disposal, for after all, we keep it at your trust, and we're glad to give it back what's yours. Give me your hand. Bring me to my host Macbeth. I love him dearly, and I shall continue to favor him. Whenever you're ready, hostess." They leave. Musicians play. The stage is lit by torches. A butler enters. Various servants carry utensils and dishes of food across the stage, and then Macbeth enters. Act 1, Scene 7. If this business would really be finished when I did the deed, then it would be best to get it over with quickly. If the assassination of the king could work like a net, sweeping up everything and preventing any consequences, then the murder would be the be-all and end-all of the whole affair, and I would gladly put my soul and afterlife at risk to do it. But for crimes like these, there are still punishments in this world. By committing violent crimes, we only teach other people to commit violence, and the violence of our students will come back to plague us teachers. Justice, being equal to everyone, forces us to drink from the poison cup that we serve to others. The king trusts me in 2 ways. First of all, I am his kinsman and his subject, so I should always try to protect him. Second, I am his host, so I should not be closing the door in his murderer's face, not trying to murder him myself. Besides, Duncan has been such a humble leader, so free of corruption, that his virtuous legacy will speak for him when he dies, as if angels were playing trumpets against the injustice of his murder. Pity, like an innocent newborn baby, will ride through the wind with winged angels on invisible horses through the air to spread the news of horrible deed to everyone, everywhere. People will shed a flood of tears that will drown the wind with a horrible downpour of rain. I can't spur myself to action. The only thing motivating me is ambition, which makes people rush ahead of themselves toward disaster. Lady Macbeth enters. "What news do you have?" "He's almost finished dinner. Why did you leave the dining room?" "Has he asked for me?" "Don't you know that he has?" Excuse me. "We can't go on with this plan. The king has just honored me, and I've earned his good opinion with all sorts of people. I want to enjoy these honors and while the feeling is fresh and not throw it away so soon." "Were you drunk when you seemed so hopeful before? Have you gone to sleep and woken up green and pale in fear of this idea? From now on, this is what I'll think of your love. Are you afraid to act the way you desire? Will you take the crown you want so badly, or will you live as a coward, always saying, 'I can't,' after you say, 'I want to'? You're like the poor cat in the old story. So when she calls him a cat here, it's kind of like the derogatory word for like female parts. Like she's being very offensive to him, calling him like a cat who's like afraid to get his feet wet. Like she's calling him like a big wuss here. Macbeth says, "Please stop. I dare do only what is proper for a man to do. He who dares more is not a man at all." If you weren't a man, then what kind of animal were you when you first told me what you wanted to do this? When you dared to do it, that's when you were a man. And if you go one step further by doing what you dared to do before, you'll be that much more of a man. The time and place weren't right before, but you would have gone ahead with the murder anyhow. Now the time and place are right, but they're almost too good for you. I have suckled a baby, and I know how sweet it is to love the baby at my breast. But even as the baby was smiling up at me, I would have plucked my nipple out of its mouth and smashed its brains out against a wall if I had sworn to do that the same way you have sworn to do this. But if we fail, we fail. If you get your courage up, we can't fail. When Duncan is asleep, the day's hard journey has definitely made him tired. I'll get his 2 servants so drunk that their memory will go up in smoke through the chimneys of their brains. When they lie asleep like pigs, so drunk they'll be dead to the world, what won't you and I be able to do to the unguarded Duncan? And whatever we do, we can lay all of the blame on the drunken servants. May you only give birth to male children, Lady Macbeth, because your fearless spirit should create nothing that isn't masculine. Once we have covered the 2 servants with blood and used their daggers to kill, won't people believe that they were the culprits? Who could have think it happened any other way? We'll be grieving loudly when we hear that Duncan has died. Now I'm decided, and we will exert every muscle in my body to commit this crime. Go now and pretend to be a friendly hostess. Hide a false, pleasant face when you know your false, evil heart. They exit. So now they're going to go and plan to kill the king. They just made a plan because Lady Macbeth called Macbeth a coward, that they are going to get the guards drunk. And then when Duncan has gone to sleep and she's gotten the guards really drunk, they're going to kill Duncan and then blame it on the guards. And that's the plan to frame them. So that's the end of Act 1.